reframe my definition of failure.
Yeah, I failed quite a bit.
Do not be afraid to fail.
Want success? Model the best. So today, let's learn one of the most common rules that successful people follow: redefine failure.
Growing up, my father used to ask my brother and me what we had failed at the dinner table, which was so interesting, and he'd celebrate it, and he'd actually be disappointed if I didn't have something that I failed at that week. So I can remember saying, Dad, I tried out for this and I was horrible, and he would actually high-five me and say, congratulations, way to go. And what it did was just reframe my definition of failure. Failure for me became not trying versus the outcome. So many people don't take risks for fear of failure. They don't start the business, they don't go create the art they want to create, or they don't go try out to be in the play, or whatever it is, for the fear of failure. And once you redefine that for yourself and realize the failure is just not trying, then life opens up to you in many ways. And I would also, my dad would encourage me anytime something didn't go the way I expected it to, or maybe I got embarrassed by a situation, to write down where the hidden gifts were and what I got out of it. And I started realizing in everything there was some amazing nugget that I wouldn't have wanted to pass up.
When you think about your risk tolerance for failure, how far are you willing to fail?
Well, I mean, unfortunately and fortunately, I failed quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I understand that's actually part of the process of succeeding. I'm not one that really believe in failure. I believe you have setbacks. And, you have to learn from those. You have to learn what are those landmines that can be avoided the next time. What are those pitfalls? And you have to learn from that stuff. And so, I welcome those things. It's a part of life.
But are you prepared to, really fail at something totally new? What if you're just a shitty VC?
Then I'm a shitty VC,
yeah.
And then I work at it, and then I'm not a shitty VC the next year, or, whenever it happens.
Yeah.
Listen, my first year in the league on national TV, 18 years old, I shot 5 straight air balls in the playoffs in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
I think my tolerance is pretty high.
Yeah.
I think I'm all right.
This is what I tell my daughters every day. Do not be afraid to fail, because that oftentimes is the thing that keeps us as women and girls back. Because we think we have to be right. We think we have to be perfect. We think that we can't stumble. And the only way you succeed in life, the only way you learn, is by failing. It's not the failure, it's what you do after you fail. Do you let it eat you up? Do you quit? Do you give up? Or do you let it bolster you? Does it serve as the challenge in your mind to do more, to take some risks, to step outside of your comfort zone?
I think failure is the highway to success, and I know that sounds like a platitude, but society or people teach us, right? They say, if you fail and feel uncomfortable, you've done something wrong. And what I try to do in all of my books and my presentations and my tweets is you cannot get to the mountaintop without taking a few missteps. And so a business that wants to win, you have to outfail your competition. And as human beings, failure is not a bad thing. Ask yourself, what's the opportunity from the failure, and get in the game, because when you get to the last hour of your last day, it will not be the failures you regret, it'll be all the risks you didn't take.
Also, if you want to learn how to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. It's free. The links to join are in the description below.
And so to become fearless, why not find some time every day to practice becoming fearless?
There's certain things that we want to get to, but we have to pace those out, because we have to have absolute focus.
I want you all to stay true to the most real, most sincere, most authentic parts of yourselves.
If you want to succeed, then you need to adjust how you see failure. Failure is going to happen. If you look at the most successful people in the world, we've studied them, they're in the book, they're all over the channel, they failed the most. The most successful person you look up to, that you're like, wow, that person is so successful, I can't believe it. They have failed way more than you've even tried. Not everything works out. Most of the series that I put out on this channel don't work out. We test constantly, and most of them never go anywhere. They just don't get enough traction. There's an experiment, we failed, we move on to the next one. We have failed more than most people even try, and that's why we succeed. And that's a consistent habit around people who are winning. They win because they tried so many other things and a certain percentage make their way through. And most people are so afraid to fail that they don't even try. And that's the biggest failure of all. They're so afraid of it not working out, of it not being the big hit, that they just sit on their idea and then they watch somebody else make tons of money, have a huge impact from it. Get it out there. It may not be the biggest version of what you're trying to do, but start. Start small, build momentum, see if you still even like this thing or not. See if you can get some people interested in it or not. And expect to fail. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is normal. Failure is welcomed, right? You're gonna learn from it, you're gonna build on it, you're gonna make it better. If you are not failing, if you're winning every time, think about it. Like, if you're winning every time, everything you touch wins, that means you're playing a tiny game. It means you're racing against 3-year-olds. Great, congratulations, you won every single race because you're running against 3-year-olds. If you want to be the best, you want to have an impact, you want to make your business a success, you want to make money, you want to reach people, you're going to have to race against people who are a little more skilled and talented. You're going to have to risk losing. You're not going to win every race. But the good news is you don't have to. You don't have to win every race to succeed. You just have to win one. You could run 100 races, you just need to win one. And then they call you an overnight success.
So often people are consumed with fear. The fear of judgment, that's a huge one. The fear of failure, what happens if it doesn't work? The fear of success, what happens if it does work and people see me like they really see me for who I am? What happens if I get hurt in a relationship? Like, there's so many what ifs. But what happens when you what if yourself, all over yourself, you never think about the what if it works. What if it has just as much chance at working as it does at not working? And what if you redefine what we call failure? And in my language, I love it in the book Abundance Now that I wrote, and many of you have read it, I talk about you can fail all day long, just fail forward. The only distinction between a bunch of really successful individuals and a bunch of individuals really wanting success is that the successful individuals were willing to fail. And they did fail. They just failed forward. Some of my best lessons are born out of my failures, literally, to this day. And my failures these days cost 6 figures or more. But I'm willing to do that because I want the lesson or the outcome. And if you allow a failure to feed your future, it's what I call feeding your future. Meaning, what are the 2 things that I did really well? And what's the 1 area that I can improve upon? Or what's the 3 things I did really well? And what are the 2 areas that I can improve upon? And then take those 2 things and pull that lesson forward. Or take the 3 things that you did well and make sure you don't lose those. To me, the tragedy of when something doesn't go the way you thought is when you only beat yourself up from it. You never, ever look at what did I do well and where can I improve?
What I say to everyone as the best business advice has to do with not being afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. Because so many business people, so many entrepreneurs don't even start on an idea because they're afraid it may fail. And there's a good chance that it may fail.
Right.
When we were ready to start the Huffington Post, you have no idea how many people were trying to dissuade me from doing it. And I mean people who loved me, forget the rest, on the grounds that, why do you need that? You know, the internet is a young person's business. You are a successful author. Why do you need to risk your success, etc.? So being willing to fail and recognizing, as my mother used to tell us, that failure is not the opposite of success, it's a stepping stone to success, that is key.
Failures are normal, right? With all the success that one sees, people, even in my own case, don't see how many times I have failed before I succeed. So they are just a step before you succeed. So never get disheartened by failures. Learn from them, but never give up.
There's a design conference coming to San Francisco, and there's not a single place to stay in the city. And I'm looking around the apartment, seeing all the space in our living room, thinking, wait, there's all this extra space. What if we took an airbed out of the closet, we blew it up on the floor, and we hosted guests who needed a place to stay? I called Brian and said, Brian, We're gonna throw airbeds on the floor. We're gonna host guests this weekend. We launched just in time for South by Southwest. And we had about 10 people list their place in Austin and a total of 2 reservations, one of which was Brian. So we were not met with success. It did not take off like a rocket ship. In fact, I would call it a miserable failure at that point.
How do you turn failure into a plus? And it's true. When I was at the University of Nebraska, one day I was reading the Daily Nebraskan, and it said in room 300 or something, at 3 o'clock there will be this panel of 3 professors here at the university, and they're going to award the Nathan Gold Scholarship. I don't know whether you still have that around? And at the time, it said it would give you $500 to go to the graduate school of your choice. I don't know whether it's changed in amount, but that was it. So I read this, and I went there to this room at 3 o'clock that day, or whatever it was, and I walked in the room, and there were the professors, and I was the only student that showed up. I mean, it really got to them. I mean, they were stuck. They kept waiting and looking at their watch and hoping there'd be more candidates, but no one came in. So I won $500 by default. And those are usually my biggest triumphs when nobody else shows up. And so here I was. I had $500 to go toward it wasn't limited as any graduate school for a master's degree. So I applied to Harvard. My dad wanted me to. And I shortly heard from Harvard, and they said, go to Chicago and meet this fellow who interviews applicants from the Midwest. So I got on the train, and that's what you did in those days, and I spent about 10 hours on the Burlington going to Chicago. Then I transferred to another little interurban train to go up to this country day school where this fellow was the headmaster, and he was the big interviewer for Harvard. And I got there, and after about 10 minutes, he said, better think about something else. He come back later on. I was 19 at the time, and I looked about 12, and I acted about 8. So it was not a great combination. So he said, forget it. So I took the little interurban train back to Chicago, and I took the 10-hour train back to Omaha. And all the time I think, what do I tell my parents? It's kind of embarrassing. But it was the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Because if I'd gone to Harvard, I would have gone to a 2-year business school. I instead applied to Columbia, where I could graduate in 1 year and get a master's degree. Luckily, that by the accident of it and being in the Nebraska National Guard, which did not get called up for the Korean War, I missed going in the Korean War. I got to meet Ben Graham, which had an enormous effect on me subsequently. And I probably got my wife that way because she was going to Northwestern. And I was able to put on sort of a full court press because I got out in 1 year. And otherwise, she'd have met some other guy. I mean, I got her before the competition showed up. And so it worked out wonderfully. It couldn't have worked out better. And that's been my life, basically. I mean, things, you will get some disappointments, but the future is what counts. If I knew every decision I was going to make was going to be perfect, it would not be as much fun. It'd be like playing golf and knowing you're going to hit a hole-in-one on every hole. You wouldn't play golf if every time you got on a tee, you just took a swing and the ball ended up in the hole. It'd be fun for a few days. You get on TV, but the game would not be any fun. So it's failure, and I wouldn't even consider them failures, but they're mistakes or whatever you want to call them. They're part of the game, and in the end, you go on, and we've made plenty of mistakes in business. We'll make plenty more, and the Babe Ruth, and for a long time, it subsequently got eclipsed by a few fellows, but he held the record for strikeouts. So held the record for home runs and was the highest paid baseball player until the modern era came along. So it's part of the game. If you take big swings, you're going to miss sometimes.
Now I've got a special bonus clip for you from Will Smith on how to fail loud that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1, what failure do you need to redefine in your life? Number 2, what action are you afraid to take because of fear of failure? And number 3, how can you act on that one fear today?
The idea of trying not to fail. I think it's so, like that is the killer for an actor, trying not to fail, because the camera feels that thing. It feels that you're uncertain and not sure. It's like, let it rip. Like, fail hard and fail loud.
If you want to learn how to chase happiness, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Go make yourself happy.
Seek to be happier.
Receiving love and happiness